Hello, George McDermott here. Is that loud enough?
Yeah.
Right?
Speak.
George McDermott here, MarylandCourtWatch.com and SecretJustice.com. We're down here. Mark Young and company sponsored this rally here at the United States Capitol today for fathers' rights and victims' rights. This is the people's house. This is the house that the citizens of the United States of America own. Okay. I'm bringing some information to you today. I've been asked to speak on corruption in America's courts and how out of control our nation's judicial system has gotten. I have a rich history of fighting corruption going back 17 years, 300 programs at SecretJustice.com, all on video, 7,000 plus docket entries in 107 court cases. I guess you could have to say that I have seen virtually every type of judicial fraud perpetrated on citizens of this nation happening day in and day out in the courts. I come here today from Maryland, where MarylandCourtWatch.com has been fighting for the investigation into the corruption within the Maryland judicial system. Unfortunately, the citizens of Maryland, Mark and most of these other people here today, are victims of that system and the corruption. Maryland, unlike some of the other states in this union, is a state where we have courts of record. And that's the only thing that has saved myself and numerous other people within the state, because we do have courts of record. The Maryland General Assembly, our founding fathers, were the State House at one time was the capital of the United States. George Washington resigned his commission in that capital and took up private life for the betterment of the peoples of these United States. Unfortunately, if George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, Adams, and the other founding fathers were to come into America today, they would not recognize this nation as what they had envisioned. We have went from a land of the free and the home of the brave to the land of the scam and the home of the fraud for the benefit of a corporate entity known as the American Bar Association and its members, who are housed right down here on 15th Street, a block away from the capital of the United States. Now, why do I say we're now in the land of the... Why do I say our nation is now beyond corrupt? Well, at present, I have a petition before the United States Supreme Court that's the other side of this building here, where I have had to present, this is my fourth trip to the United States Supreme Court in the last 17 years, where I've had to present to the Supreme Court justices, thanks to the efforts of Chief Judge John Roberts, who granted me an extension of time to file my last brief in that court, which is still pending. The three questions I asked the Supreme Court of the United States affect every citizen of this nation, every creditor of this nation, every supporter of this nation. And it goes right to the heart of what our courts are about. How many of you out here in the audience today realize that 99.99% of the orders signed by the Supreme Court of the United States back in the other side of this building are unsigned. Every time the clerk of the court issues an unsigned order that's a rubber stamp, takes that order and puts it in an envelope and mails it to you, that constitutes mail fraud under Title 18 of the United States Criminal Code. Unfortunately, the investigative department of the U.S. Postal Service is permeated with members of the American Bar Association, and they're not doing their job. They're allowing these unsigned orders to go out into tens of thousands every day, so people lose their homes, their businesses, their families are separated, destroyed, and we are expected to bow down and say that, well, I'm going to accept an unsigned order to disenfranchise myself and my family of all my legal rights afforded under the Constitution. That is absolutely wrong. Mark Young, the organizers of this event, are out here fighting a fight for truth and justice and the return of our legal rights in our courts. Our children are being taken from parents, our grandchildren are being taken from grandparents, homes are being taken from families who have worked all their lives with false forged documents. We have went to a nation now that we're purportedly owe $62 trillion in debt, and each and every member of the United States, every family member purportedly now owes the United States government treasury a sum total of $512,000. Why should we owe the government anything? Skillings versus the United States. The United States Supreme Court just said that you are only supposed to be able to collect when you provide true and honest services. Okay? Has the government provided you with true and honest services? You have a court system that refuses to obey the rule of law. You have members of the United States Congress over here on this side who refuse to obey the rule of law. You have senators on this side who refuse to abide by the rule of law. Why? Because they're protecting the #1 mafia organization in the United States today, the American Bar Association, and its members. When will it stop? When will the peoples of these United States come together, and when will they demand that the Constitution is restored and the rule of law is restored, and these politicians stop using their offices to shake down corporate America so they can get reelected and they can keep corruption going within this nation? It has to end at some time. It has to be brought to a conclusion. I have a press release I got off the internet today, and I would like to read into part of it. It says, proof of corruption by the United States presidential hopeful, Maryland attorney Douglas Gansler. That's a pretty impressive title, isn't it? And it's for immediate release, June 19, 2011. It comes from Toronto, Canada, June 19, 2011. American environmentalist Diane Peace is seeking refuge protection in Canada from years of prosecution orchestrated by the Maryland Attorney General's office, Douglas Gansler and his associates. That should scare the hell out of everybody. Now, I can tell you point blank, if you go to secretjustice.com to program 301 and 302, that Douglas Gansler is using his office for political gain and enrichment, period. He has no respect for the Constitution. He has no respect for the rule of law. I took victims over there and asked for assistance for people in Calvert County who are being wrongfully evicted with forged documents. We went to Douglas Gansler's office. They sent some moronic public affairs lady down, and she tells me and tells the victim, we do not take complaints from citizens. If you're a victim of foreclosure fraud, you should have come to us first. We do not take criminal complaints. Well, that woman should be fired. It wasn't her place, it was Douglas Gansler's place to make sure that every citizen has a right of recourse in our legal system. Yet, the same Douglas Gansler can prosecute a realtor in Prince George's County because the realtor made up a campaign flyer that didn't have Doug Gansler's picture on it and recognized someone else to run against him, and he wrongfully prosecuted this man for a criminal offense. Douglas Gansler needs to be removed from office right now. I cannot tell you how many times Radhika Rishi, 11 years ago, we went to Douglas Gansler when he was a state's attorney for Maryland. She had two wonderful children. Her children were being beaten and brutally abused by her husband. Douglas Gansler wouldn't help anybody. If you don't pay him off first, he won't help anybody. So what happens? After a 1.5-year fight, legally blind, legally disabled, they steal her children from her. No recourse, even though we have witnesses who've seen what was going on, and they can attest that they heard the opposing attorneys bragging in the elevator in the courthouse, she will never win. I play with the judge every week, golf. She doesn't have a chance. This is how our courts are being torn apart, because 90% of the decisions that are made in the courthouse are made on the courthouse, on the golf courses of the state of Maryland and around this country first. These judges are taking out the attorneys, purposely wager bets with them. They purposely lose thousands of dollars in a round of golf to ensure that they will get what they came for. It's time that this corruption stops. It's time that the families, the fathers of this nation, be allowed their legal rights in court. I'm going to go on with this letter. Gansler has expressed an interest in a future U.S. presidential bid and even quoted as saying he wants to be the first Jewish president of the United States. Good luck, Mr. Gansler. I'm running for United States Congress, in 2012, and I'm going to do everything I can to expose the corruption that you did in the state of Maryland and try to take you down and prosecute you for misconduct of office. Pierce was prepared a website documenting over 10 years of prosecution and terrorism led by the Maryland State Offices of the Attorney General. Well, that sounds about right. My ordeal with the Maryland State and the Attorney General's office started in 1995 with Joseph Coran's administration, and it's now 17 years later, 7,000 docket entries, and over 100 court cases, so I can understand that. Going on, I knew that I was safe. I was not safe if I remained in the United States. This is an American citizen, folks. This is an activist, an American citizen. She knew she would not be safe in her own country. Give me a break. I needed a place where I could speak my truth without fear of more illegal imprisonment and prosecution. Yes, Douglas Gansler had her put in prison, put in jail, to force her to sign over her legal rights. Says Pierce, I was born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area, and I've seen firsthand how corrupt many elements of the state and federal politics can be. Big news. We have, once again, we go back to the land of the scam and the home of the fraud. The United States, as we are here today. I also needed a safe place where I could begin to heal and to learn to trust again. Said Pierce, Canada has been incredibly safe and nurturing place for me. I have been blessed to be admitted into the several programs designed to help people heal from traumatic experiences while I have been in Canada. Good for you, Canada. There's their embassy right across the street. Good for you. A hearing is scheduled before the Canadian Immigration and Refugee Board on July 4th at 1 p.m. in Toronto to hear Pierce's case. Isn't that ironic? We will be celebrating the birth of our nation on July 4th, and at the same time we will have our good citizens, activists, loyal American citizens applying for citizenship in foreign countries because we've become corrupt to the core and nobody could give a damn. Toronto immigration law firm Nerian and Associates, www.visitplace.com, has offered to represent Pierce at the July 4th hearing. However, a payment of $5,000 is required to retain her attorneys. Well, see, nothing comes free. Once again, the American Bar Association was the forerunner to the Canadian Bar Association, the forerunner to all the bar associations around this world. And once again, they're going to get their money whether we like it or not. They're going to suck every living breath out of every citizen in this United States to enhance the corruption going on in this house, the People's House, the People's Senate, the People's Congress, the Maryland House of Representatives, and the Maryland General Assembly. When will people wake up and say enough is enough? We do not want these gangsters running our nation anymore. A legal defense fund has been established to accept donations supporting Pierce. You can view the documentation of this corruption at the Justice for Diane website at peoples.com/site/Justice Foundation Diane Pierce/ to make a donation, and she's got down the website. But this is sad. I just got this morning, and she emailed it, copied it to over 100 organizations that she's been affiliated with, fighting for truth and justice in this country. Over 100. And you would think that that was bad enough. But like I said earlier, here's a letter that I sent out last night from MarylandCourtWatch.com. It was emailed out at 9 o'clock last night. And this one here goes from the Executive Office of the United States General Counsel, Department of Justice, 20 Massachusetts Avenue Northwest, Suite 8000, Washington, D.C., 20530, area code 202-307-1399, and the fax number is 307-1297. This is a cover letter because when I got home last night, I found out that Gene Machad got yet another unsigned order from the mafia-driven U.S. bankruptcy court. Mark, would you mind coming up here for a second? I want you to take this sham order and bring it up closer to the camera. You know, because I think both the cameras need to see what's going on here. Just take it right up to the front of the camera and bring it back.
Dave.
Now this is Judge Lip.
Tell me when I'm in focus.
Wendell L. Lip of the United States Bankruptcy Court, Baltimore, Maryland.
Closer.
I've been dealing with this gangster judge for years. She now has 5 families in Cecil County, Maryland, and tied up with the Cecil County Bank. I think it was about 7 cases up there. And she has Gene Machad's case that emanates out of Calvert County, Maryland, where I sat in on hearings in her courtroom. And to say justice is done would be a laughing stock. There's no justice done in the United States Bankruptcy Court. The bankruptcy court system in the United States is made just to enhance the wealth of bankers and corporate executives, real estate brokers, appraisers, lawyers, settlement attorneys. Everybody gets a slice of the victim's assets. You can work all your life in the United States and think that you've got something. And just like Gene Machad and her family, they had millions of dollars worth of property down in Solomon's Island. They had worked all their life for it. They had perfected it. They had a good life. Then they went to refinance their property. Well, the refinance company they got involved with a couple of years ago turned out to be Mears. Everybody knows about Mears. Mears is that group of renegades over in Western Virginia that came up with a way that no legal documents had to transfer hands. Everything was done electronically. So it's led to the total financial collapse of the United States of America. Anybody in the House of Representatives doing anything? Have you heard, where are the congressional hearings? Have you heard of anybody? Can you identify them? Has anybody heard the outcry from the U.S. Senate? No, you won't hear it because they're all on the payroll of these banks. They could not get reelected if they did not have the financial resources of these banks and their paid legal lobbyists, all of which are lawyers. Once again, we come back into the fact that the American Bar Association has totally taken over the United States and has totally decided that families are not, we are cannon fodder. Fathers are cannon fodder. Mothers' rights are cannon fodder. All we want is we want you to hire our people so that we can strip every asset that you have and sell you down the drain when it comes time to go to court.
Amen.
What an absolute joke that is. Well, let's get back to Gene here. This is the fax cover letter. And the subject is reporting bankruptcy fraud and cover-up by the members of the United States Judiciary bankruptcy judges in Baltimore, Maryland, Greenbelt, disenfranchising citizens of their rights, liberties, and properties and access to the courts under color of law and authority under 18 U.S.C. 3057 of the United States Criminal Code. I'll get into 3057, but basically that portion of the United States Criminal Code, United States versus Dean, compels judges, attorneys, trustees, receivers, accountants, anybody involved in the administration of a bankruptcy proceeding to report any allegations of fraud to the U.S. Attorney and immediately seek a federal grand jury investigation. It's not happening, folks. These banks are, the court people go into these banks and repeatedly inform the courts of fraud, as Gene Michaud did, 2 forensic audits. Both the forensic audits came back and had so many frauds that had been committed in the loan documents, you couldn't even count them. But I went with Gene, I've been dealing with her for the last month and a half. I went to her to the Calvert County Court, where all the judges in her case were supposed to recuse themselves from this monster called Paul Monger in Calvert County, real estate broker. They actually sent, the Chief Judge Krug sent a letter to the Chief Assignments Judge in the 7th Judicial Circuit requesting that all judges in Calvert County recuse themselves from any dealings with this man because they all had personal interest with him. They were all personal friends of his, and they all attended functions together. Gene Michaud only found out about that document months after they had illegally, Judge Krug and the other gangsters down there had went ahead and held proceedings and suppressed all testimony. Suppressed all testimony, wouldn't even let her speak. So this monster could steal millions of dollars worth of her property, 6 acres on Solomon's Island with 400 feet of deep water frontage. For pennies. Pennies. So I go back to, I tried to get it moved to Prince George's County. We filed a complaint in Prince George's County, Maryland, Circuit Court. What happens?